The narcissist wants to expose their version of you to the world, to the people who love you and the people that you love the most, and also to perfect strangers. They just need to have an audience. They set the stage so others will conclude that they are the sane one and you are the crazy one, and always at fault for their pain. They play the victim and project who they are on you. And if they're good enough at it, they can cause you to turn on yourself. It is almost like they can hear your self-talk and know how to direct it and to use it to help you destroy yourself. Like the way you have done since you were a child, but now you have someone to pound the words into your soul with much more intensity. They are very accommodating, precise, and stealthily skilled, and happy to accommodate you in your self-loathing, self-abusive attacks on your core self. I believe that my ex was a covert narcissist who also was a self-appointed minister and did missionary work. In my situation, my daughter and I were not safe. We went on a mission trip in another country, and as I was up on stage performing with my dance team, he was handing my 6-month-old baby out to perfect strangers on the street. He never used common sense. He was bringing home questionable people on a regular basis and having them spend the night. He brought home someone who just got out of prison for armed robbery to come and spend weeks with us. He also brought home a lady who he had just met at Walmart, who had multiple personalities and would speak in different voices. One time he took us to a Thanksgiving dinner, and the lady who was hosting the dinner told me that her husband had just tried to kill her by smothering her with a pillow. And that's just a few of the things that he's done. There are many. So I knew we needed to leave him. It was time. When I finally got the courage and the finances and the support to leave him, he set the stage for a narcissistic rage. He went around telling everyone I loved and everyone that we knew that there was something wrong with me before I told anybody that I was filing for divorce. I was trying to go for supervised visitation until we can get his behavior under control and full custody of my daughter. He battled that by telling his lawyer and the judge that I was mentally incapable of taking care of our daughter, and I was the one putting her in danger. And they didn't know who to believe. Up until this one particular day that I'm getting ready to tell you about, she had never spent more than 30 minutes alone with her father. I had been protecting her all this time. The courts told me that I had to give her to him for visitation, not supervised visitation, just regular visitation, or they were going to take her from me and give her to him permanently. I didn't know who to believe, so I was forced to surrender my 3-year-old to a man who was very unstable. I'll never forget that day. That day changed me forever. We walked up to his truck, and I put my baby in the car seat and buckled her in. When I looked up at his face, he had the most evil grin. It's that narcissistic look of, ha, I won. No one's ever going to believe you. They all believe me. That grin on his face revealed to me what I was dealing with. I had no idea. He had kept it hidden. So I started to give my daughter a goodbye kiss when he threw a VHS tape, this shows you how long it's been, on her lap and said, "This is your mother. She's schizophrenic, and I'm not going to stop until I make sure that she's in a mental ward, and you will never see her again." And then he drove off. The video was the movie A Beautiful Mind. I had a friend with me because she knew I needed the moral support. My apartment was on the 2nd floor. And I remember looking up at those steps and not knowing how I was even going to make it up the steps because my heart was so heavy and I was drained of every ounce of energy that I had. But I made it up the steps and I collapsed in my hallway of my apartment and started to sob. I cried way into the night. I had no idea what my little girl was going to go through, and I was devastated. When I finally opened up my eyes, it was dark outside and there wasn't a light on in my apartment. So I muddled my way to my bed, laid down, and closed my eyes and tried to sleep. The next day when he brought her home, she wouldn't even look at me. Before that visitation, she was this bubbly, bright, sunshiny little girl who everybody loved. She was so sweet and so innocent and so good and kind. She was like a little angel. When I got her back, she wouldn't even talk to me. And I'm not sure why, but she would crawl around on the floor with her face in the carpet. I thought that was really odd, and to this day I'm not quite sure what that was all about. Except for maybe she just had a heavy head full of thoughts that she couldn't get rid of. I don't know. But she wouldn't talk to me. So I called my friend up and she said, let me come get her and let me keep her for the night and maybe I can find out what happened. So she did. I cried myself to sleep again that night. The next day, I called my friend as soon as I woke up and she said, she's better now. Why don't you come get her? And maybe she will talk to you now. So I went over to my friend's house and I picked up my daughter and we're driving home and she starts playing with the lock on the door and she wouldn't stop. And then she tried to open the door and I'm like, you've got to stop. You can't do that. I'm driving. I don't want something to happen to you. And she looked at me and she said, I don't have to listen to you. She had never talked like that to me before. I finally pulled into the driveway of my apartment building and I looked over at her and I said, listen, I am so sorry that you had to go spend time with your father. I don't know what he said to you. I don't know what he did to you, but I am so sorry. It was not my idea. I tried to stop it from happening, but the courts told me if I didn't let you go, that they would take you from me and give you to him forever, and I did not want that to happen. She looked at me and I realized she had this Hello Kitty hairbrush in her hand I didn't notice before. And she threw it on the ground and she said, I don't want this brush. I want you. And she leapt out of her car seat into my arms and sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. And we just sat there crying together as I was just, caressing her and rubbing her hair and trying to comfort my daughter. That was the beginning of his narcissistic rage. And he started it with our daughter. And it never got better. She never told me what he did or said the night of her first visitation. The court battle went on for 2.5 years. I have heard from a lot of people that narcissists will try to prove that there's something wrong with the other person before that person has a chance to tell the truth. So it muddies the water and nobody knows who's telling the truth when it finally comes out. That's all part of that narcissistic rage. They set the stage for your undoing, for your destruction.